Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know there's an amendment pending. I don't know if it's up yet. So I want to talk on the rules as a whole one last time. There's a lot of things we do in this body, this chamber, that the public cares passionately about and pays close attention to. And there's a lot of things we do that they really don't. For better or for worse, maybe they should, but they don't. I would agree that in the past, rules debates, which happen every 2 years, don't get a lot of public attention. I think that's changing. I've certainly been doing my best to try to change that. I know other people in this chamber have too, of both parties. When I wrote the op-ed I wrote in October, I can truthfully tell you I got more in-person response from people than anything else I'd ever written. Not from my district. I'm not going to tell you I got lots of emails and communications from people in my district. But I got them from people around the state. And I've written other things in a projo, so it wasn't where it was written. People are beginning to wake up to the fact that the rules matter. And I'm glad we're having this debate tonight because the rules make a huge difference. And the rules cover a lot of things. But fundamentally, there's two most important things that we need to deal with as a body. Who decides what legislation gets to the floor? And how much time either we and members of the public have to review legislation that's amended through whatever process. Fundamentally, those are the big issues. And I wish the First Amendment tonight, Representative Chippendale's amendment on the 24-hour rule and the sub-As, had gotten more discussion. Sometimes the things that ebb and flow, it didn't. I was a little surprised. Maybe if it had been the Third Amendment, it would have been discussed for an hour. I don't know. Here's the problem. There's been a lot of talk about rule suspension. I intentionally did not speak on that for a whole bunch of reasons. One of which was that it's not suspending the rules that's the issue. It's what happens when the rules are suspended. The biggest problem in this building is that one person, I'm not singling out Speaker Matiello, this has been the same through 3 speakers that I've been here for. One person controls what comes to the floor. But that doesn't happen until we all agree and vote on this tonight. And one person shouldn't have that power. If, God forbid, the speaker got hit by a bus, somebody else in this room would replace him on the rostrum, and they'd have that same exact power. Oh, well, maybe Representative Lima, I don't know. No one in this room should have that power. Nobody should, and we all know it. But we give it up. I don't, but the majority of people in this room are about to give that power for the next 2 years to whoever sits on that rostrum. That's not good for public policy. It's a bad thing to do. And then the issue on the sub-As. I don't want to get into the whole suspension debate, but I will say this. There was a lot of talk about how many bills we do at the end of session. Representative Chairman Kennedy is correct. It's not as bad as it sounds, but perception matters. You know, technically there were 252 bills. As I said in the Rules Committee, though, and as you pointed out, the number of actual substantive bills wasn't that high. And frankly, a lot of those sub-As that come in either at the end of session or even in the normal course, they're changes that everyone can easily understand, but the public perception is terrible. We all know that there's a limited number of bills every year, and the pay equity bill was the touchstone for a lot of people last year, but it's not the only example. There's a limited number of bills that come in every single year, and they get substantially changed the last minute. I remember the Route 195 legislation in 2010 was one of those. It came in with dramatic, every year there's 1 or 2 bills. Those are the bills that a minority group, and I say minority, not I mean Republicans, I mean a minority of the committee, 1/3, which is what Rep. Chippendale's amendment was, should be able to hold over for a minimum of 24 hours. To me, that was the best amendment tonight. I don't think it got discussed enough, and I wish it passed. I was going to put in another amendment tonight that I drafted. I'm not going to for a couple of reasons, but I want to discuss it because it illustrates my point. I drafted it because it addresses one of my pet peeves. It has been since before I got elected. And I drafted it because it illustrates the power of the speaker. I'm not going to put it in, first, because I don't want to spark an hour-long debate on it, and second, because fundamentally it would embarrass some of the people in this room, and that's not ever my intent. But legislative grants. The speaker has sole power over legislative grants. It seems like a little thing. My amendment would have made legislative grants be distributed on a basis equally to every district. That's all. It would have been very hard for people to vote against that in this chamber, especially once you have the numbers for what each district gets. And that's why I'm not doing it. But that is not right, that one person can control the distribution of whatever it is every year, $2 million, $3 million. It's a small example, but these rules and our practices give the person on that rostrum all that power. In my experience here, Speaker Matiello has exercised that power better than the 2 predecessors that came before him, in my view, but he still has the power, and it's wrong. And you all know it's wrong. You do. This is the one moment to say no. We're going to devolve power down to the body. There's a whole bunch of other ideas that have been talked about. Electing committee chairs is one. allowing, again, minority members of committees to bring votes to the floor. We could go on and on and on. We need to change the way we do business. And it's obvious we're not going to do it, which is unfortunate because this is our one and only opportunity.
20 seconds, Representative. You're technically out of time, but 20
no,
seconds.
Actually, I was about to wrap up because this is our one and only opportunity now. And I know what's going to happen on the final vote, and that's fine. But there will be another opportunity, whether it's in 2 years or some other time. Those of you who are here at that time, please exercise the opportunity and stop sending all the power to one person. No offense, Mr. Speaker, it's not about you. It's about the way we run business here. It's not right. Thank you.